In an interview on ABC News with Rachel Scott, Donald Trump dropped a pretty big development for America and its armed forces. He said, "We're not involved in it," talking about Israel's war with Iran. "It's possible we could get involved, but we are not at this moment involved." So first of all, it is a lie to say that we are not involved in it. We arm and defend Israel. We provide direct infusions of military aid to them, both in terms of money and in terms of weapons and vehicles. We provided intel into this attack, and without our patronage, they never would have launched the attack in the first place. And so we are inherently involved in every way other than pulling the trigger ourselves or sending the US Marines rappelling into Tehran. But that apparently also could be coming soon. And that is Donald Trump floating a little bit of a trial balloon. We could be directly involved, okay? He also continued to do the weird covering his ass of pretending that he hadn't been screwed over by Netanyahu launching this attack when he did, saying something like this had to happen because I think even from both sides, but something like this had to happen. They want to talk and they will be talking. Yes, something like this had to happen, which is why 3 days before it happened, he begged Netanyahu to not do it. And so whatever, that's his weird trying to pretend that he's tough or something. He's apparently also, he says in this interview, open to Vladimir Putin being the mediator between Iran and Israel. I don't even really have a point about that. That's just another stupid thing being added to this whole thing. But Donald Trump saying we could soon be involved. JD Vance just said, "We never ask you to go to war unless you absolutely have to." Why is he all of a sudden talking about, well, maybe sometimes you have to go to war. Maybe our armed forces need to invade Iran. And so that's the message coming out of both of them. And I just want to remind everyone that Trump seemed pretty clear about what the state of new wars would be under his administration. Take a look at this bragging montage here.
Remember Hillary, she said, he'll cause a war, he'll cause a war. Look at him, the way he talks, he'll cause a war. I said, no, the way I talk, I'll stop wars. And I was the first president in decades who didn't start a war. Remember Hillary said, he will start a war. My personality kept us out of war. I was the only president in modern history who did not have any new wars, no new wars. I finished some old ones. I fully rebuilt the US military, created Space Force, defeated ISIS, and was the first president in decades who didn't start a war. In fact, I got us out of those lingering, horrible 20-year wars. As president, my priority is to end conflicts, not start them.
Okay, so I get that they were constantly leaning on he never started a new war, even though he escalated the ones we're in. But now he keeps implying there that he got us out of a war. I would really love to know which war that is, because I don't know. We were still in Afghanistan, we were still in Iraq, we were still bombing Syria after him, but whatever. So Yaz, he promised no new wars. What do we get with him in office? Apparently a war, which not only his personality failed to stop from happening, but now he's saying we may get directly involved in. What do you think?
Yeah, so this most recent escalation has been going on for like 4 days now, something like that. And it's already taken a lot of twists and turns. This is just part of what's been an ongoing anti-Iran campaign for Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel. Every leader needs some issue that most of his people support. And this so-called preemptive attack that Israel did on Iran seems to me like a galvanizing effort on Netanyahu's part. Because when you think about it, things kind of aren't going that well for him in Gaza, in the sense that Gaza is still going on. The international community has condemned him for his actions in Palestine. Not that Netanyahu's supporters necessarily care about that specifically, but despite having the biggest army in the Middle East and having the biggest superpower in the world backing him, he still has not managed to quell these guerrillas in Palestine. And remember, Israel and Iran, those two countries, they have a very complicated history and relationship. They used to be friends, right? They were the non-Arabs of the Arab world, but over time, certain cultural and religious differences between them, they just couldn't overcome anymore. Not to mention the fact that the two nations were being backed by opposing superpowers, Russia and the US. So eventually Israel and Iran became antagonistic toward one another for various reasons. So when Netanyahu preemptively struck Iran, the Israelis overwhelmingly supported and celebrated that move. At least that's what's being reported. They see Iran as an existential threat. Whether that's real or perceived, it doesn't matter, because if the goal was to garner support for the Israeli military, I think that in this respect, Netanyahu has seemed to achieve that. Also, it's a bad look for Donald Trump, right? He railed against Joe Biden's handling of Netanyahu and Israel while Biden was in office. He said he could do it better. We just saw this clips of him talking about how Hillary Clinton said he was gonna start wars, and he's like, I'm not gonna do it. He's the anti-war president, right? But now that he's in power, Netanyahu is making a complete fool of him, putting him in a very precarious position with his MAGA base and with his own administration and cabinet. Yeah. This is Trump's legacy though, right? If he's worried about one thing, it's his legacy. Instead of ending this thing swiftly in Iran and between Israel and Iran, he's about to get dragged into a potentially nuclear war. And I love to remind people that the reason why Iran might be able to have nuclear weapons is because Donald Trump pulled out of the Obama era Iran nuclear deal for really no reason apart from the fact that it wasn't his deal. It was an Obama thing. He didn't like that. He pulled out of it saying he could get something better in place, and he has yet to do that. He just pulled
he failed to do that for 4 years.
Yeah, he replaced it with nothing. So now we have this possibility of getting pulled into this conflict with Iran. And there's a very real possibility that that conflict could escalate to something much bigger beyond another Middle Eastern conflict. And after, this is all after he campaigned on a decidedly non-war platform. His base does not support this. Most of the left does not support this. But Israel did what it did. Trump acted like he supported it because he had to save face. And then it came out that he never wanted it to happen anyway. But Netanyahu couldn't be bothered with what Trump wanted. And now any efforts to distance ourselves from the initial attack are moot, because as far as Iran is concerned, we were 100% behind the attack, regardless of whatever Republicans and Trump try to put out in the media to kind of save face with the American public.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think a lot of his base wants it, but unfortunately, his base didn't buy him in the last election, and a lot of the people who do desperately want this war. And so, who's he going to listen to? Well, based on his rhetoric, it seems like he's moving in the direction of those who want us to be involved. And so, a couple $1 trillion into a war. Yeah, it's not like we've been trying to cut the budget or anything recently.
If you enjoyed that, make sure that you never miss another video by subscribing. And if you want a little more, consider hitting the join button and becoming an actual member. But you're probably wondering, why the hell would I do that, John? First off, calm down. The stakes in this are very, very low. But also, when you click the join button and you become a member, you get access to bonus content that I make every week, and it's a ton of fun. You get access to tons of custom emojis and more besides that. By the way, if you join at tier 3, you even get access to a monthly member hangout with myself and other awesome people, and we always have a great time. By the way, you'll get all that going forward, but you also unlock years of the back catalog. That is literally 100 or more bonus clips, top 10 lists, debates, and more. What are you waiting for? Click the join button below. Your support powers our show, and we couldn't do it without you. Or at the very least, I wouldn't really want to try. Viewers like you keep me here. So thank you in advance for joining.